The transformative effects of long-term singlehood, how it shapes your mind, emotions, and social life. Have you ever paused to reflect on how spending a significant portion of your life without a romantic partner, whether deliberately or through circumstance, fundamentally transforms who you are? This prolonged singlehood, regardless of its origins, acts as a silent sculptor, gradually molding your psychology, emotional patterns, and social behaviors in ways both visible and subtle. For some, these changes manifest as empowering personal growth, a strengthened sense of self, remarkable independence, and clarity about personal needs that only solitude can provide. Yet for others, the same experiences may quietly erect invisible barriers, making emotional vulnerability feel foreign or causing potential relationships to seem more disruptive than desirable. The paradox lies in how these transformations occur so incrementally that we often fail to recognize their cumulative impact until we're confronted with new, romantic possibilities. This examination will illuminate 5 profound psychological and social shifts that commonly emerge from extended singlehood, from how you process emotional needs to the way you navigate social expectations. Some changes serve you well, like the confidence that comes from self-reliance or the wisdom to avoid unhealthy relationships. Others might unintentionally limit your capacity for intimacy, such as becoming so accustomed to complete autonomy that compromise feels like surrender, or developing standards so exacting that no real human could meet them. What makes this awareness particularly valuable is its power to help you distinguish between healthy personal evolution and unconscious self-protection mechanisms that may no longer serve you. By understanding these dynamics, you gain the ability to consciously choose which aspects of your single experience to carry forward and which to gently reshape, should you desire romantic connection. This isn't about pathologizing singlehood or idealizing relationships, but about developing the emotional fluency to navigate either state with intention. Whether you're happily single yet open to possibilities, or actively seeking partnership after years alone, this insight equips you to approach relationships or conscious non-relationships with greater self-awareness and authenticity. 1. Increased independence, a double-edged sword. Extended periods without romantic partnership fundamentally reshape one's relationship with autonomy. As months turn into years of self-reliance, you develop an unparalleled ability to navigate life's complexities solo, making important decisions unilaterally, structuring your time and space according to your exact preferences, and confronting challenges without the expectation of emotional backup. This profound self-sufficiency becomes second nature, rewiring your psychological framework to operate as a complete, self-contained unit, rather than part of a coupled system. The benefits of this transformation are undeniable and valuable. You cultivate a robust sense of personal agency that manifests as quiet confidence in your capabilities, resilience in facing life's uncertainties, and clarity about your needs and boundaries. This hard-won independence prevents the kind of needy attachment that can sabotage relationships, making you potentially more attractive to emotionally healthy partners who value autonomy in themselves and others. However, this same strength contains an inherent paradox when reintroducing romantic possibilities. The very skills that serve you so well in singlehood, complete self-determination, uncompromising routines, emotional self-containment, can become subtle obstacles to intimacy. Like a tree that's grown strong in isolation, adapting to share space with another ecosystem requires flexibility in roots that have learned to spread freely. The challenge lies not in the independence itself, but in the unconscious resistance to the natural compromises and interdependencies that meaningful relationships require. This transition difficulty manifests in various ways. The mental friction of consulting someone else about decisions you're accustomed to making alone. The emotional adjustment of sharing vulnerabilities you've long handled internally, or even simply coordinating schedules around someone else's needs. What was once a survival strength, the ability to function entirely independently, can, if left unexamined, become a relational limitation when you encounter opportunities for connection. The healthiest approach recognizes that true emotional maturity includes the ability to choose when to be self-reliant and when to welcome healthy interdependence. It's about maintaining your hard-earned autonomy while developing the flexibility to make space for another person. Not because you need to, but because you choose to. This balanced perspective allows you to preserve the best aspects of your independence while remaining open to the unique growth that comes from sharing your life with someone worthy of your trust and affection. When you are accustomed to living life entirely on your own terms, incorporating another person into your daily routine can feel like an adjustment, sometimes even an inconvenience. You become used to your own habits, routines, and ways of doing things without needing to compromise. The thought of checking in with someone before making plans, adjusting your schedule to accommodate another person, or sharing decision-making responsibilities may seem overwhelming. This can create a mindset where relationships are perceived as restrictive rather than fulfilling. Imagine two people in their 60s, both of whom have been single for decades. One remains open to companionship, willing to make space in their life for someone new, while the other has become so set in their ways that the idea of altering any aspect of their routine feels frustrating. Which one do you think would find it easier to build a connection if the right person came along? Fortunately, recognizing this tendency is the first step toward overcoming it. Independence and relationships are not mutually exclusive. The key is to maintain your autonomy while also allowing room for compromise and connection. When you find that balance, you don't lose yourself in a relationship. You simply grow alongside it, too. Difficulty with emotional vulnerability. One of the most profound yet often overlooked consequences of extended singlehood is the gradual erosion of emotional vulnerability, that essential human capacity to openly share our inner world with another. When you've spent years being your own sole emotional support system, the very act of revealing your fears, needs, or tender feelings to someone else can begin to feel foreign, like speaking a language you once knew but haven't practiced in years. This phenomenon operates much like muscle atrophy, the natural weakening of abilities we don't regularly exercise. In relationships, people unconsciously develop emotional fluency through daily practice. The small moments of saying, "I had a hard day," the willingness to ask for comfort, the comfort in expressing affection. But for those accustomed to prolonged solitude, these emotional muscles may weaken from disuse. You might notice yourself automatically deflecting when someone asks how you're really doing, or feeling an instinctive resistance to saying, "I miss you," even when you genuinely do. The irony is that this emotional self-sufficiency, initially developed as a strength, can become an invisible barrier to the very connection many single people ultimately desire. Like a turtle that's grown too comfortable in its shell, emerging feels increasingly risky, even when the environment is safe. This manifests most noticeably when meeting potential partners. You might intellectually recognize someone as a great match, yet find yourself inexplicably withholding, unable to bridge that final emotional distance that transforms casual dating into meaningful intimacy. Consider two scenarios. In one, a long-term single person consciously practices emotional openness, perhaps starting with small disclosures like admitting when they're tired or sharing a minor worry. In the other, someone remains emotionally self-contained, keeping even simple feelings like, "I enjoyed our time together," to themselves. The difference in their capacity to form connections isn't about worthiness or desire. It's about the practiced ability to tolerate the vulnerable but necessary exposure that intimacy requires. Yet there's hopeful neuroscience behind this challenge. Our brains retain neuroplasticity, the ability to relearn emotional skills at any age. Just as you gradually built independence, you can consciously rebuild vulnerability, not as weakness, but as courageous precision. Start small. Share one genuine feeling per day with a trusted friend, or allow yourself to voice one need in a low-stakes situation. The goal isn't to abandon your hard-won self-sufficiency, but to supplement it with the equally vital skill of selective openness, maintaining your independence while gaining the ability to choose connection when it serves you. True emotional maturity isn't found in complete self-reliance or constant vulnerability, but in the wisdom to know when each serves you best. For those who've mastered independence, the next frontier of growth may lie in developing this discernment, keeping your strength while removing the invisible do not disturb. 3. Establishing strong personal routines that can be hard to adjust. Extended periods of singlehood inevitably mold you into the architect of your own world, one where every detail, from morning rituals to weekend plans, is calibrated precisely to your preferences. You develop an intimate familiarity with your own rhythms, creating a life that flows seamlessly because it answers to no one's needs but your own. The coffee brewed exactly how you like it, the thermostat set to your ideal temperature, the spontaneous decisions made without consultation. These become the invisible framework of your daily existence. There's undeniable power in this self-directed lifestyle. It cultivates a profound sense of autonomy, where your time, space, and energy are distributed exactly as you choose. Yet this very freedom contains an often overlooked consequence: the gradual ossification of personal patterns. Like a path through the woods that becomes a deep groove after years of solitary travel, your habits become so ingrained that even small deviations can feel disruptive. Where a partnered person might routinely adjust dinner times or television preferences, your routines have existed unchallenged for so long that they've solidified into something resembling personal law. This manifests in subtle but significant ways. The irritation at someone moving items in your kitchen, the mental calculation required when someone suggests an alternative to your usual weekend routine, or even just the cognitive dissonance of hearing another voice in what's been your private domain for years. The challenge isn't the independence itself, that remains a strength, but the unconscious resistance to the natural flexibility that healthy relationships require. When every domestic pattern has been optimized for solo living for a decade or more, the necessary compromises of cohabitation can feel less like natural adjustments and more like personal concessions. Some long-term singles report feeling almost allergic to the small negotiations that couples take for granted. What movie to watch, when to go to bed, whether to accept a last-minute dinner invitation. The mental energy required for these micro-adjustments can make partnership feel exhausting rather than enriching. However, this isn't an insurmountable barrier, but rather an invitation to conscious adaptation. The solution lies not in abandoning your hard-won routines, but in practicing selective flexibility, maintaining the core structures that sustain you while leaving intentional space for future collaboration. Like a gardener who reserves part of the plot for unexpected plants, you might preserve your morning solitude, but remain open about evenings, or maintain your organizational systems while designating areas for shared use. This balanced approach allows you to honor the independence you've cultivated while preventing it from becoming a cage that keeps connection at bay. Ultimately, the healthiest transition comes from reframing compromise not as a loss of freedom, but as an expansion of possibility, where the joy of sharing life with someone worthy of your flexibility becomes its own reward. The routines you've perfected as a single person needn't be discarded, but rather viewed as a strong foundation upon which to build something new, rather than an immovable structure that prevents growth. In this way, your years of independence become preparation for choosing partnership from strength rather than necessity, able to welcome someone into your world because you're secure enough to let the edges blur. 4. Raising standards, sometimes too high. Extended periods of singlehood offer a profound opportunity to clarify your relationship needs and boundaries, an invaluable form of self-knowledge that protects you from settling for incompatible partnerships. This discernment becomes problematic only when it hardens into perfectionism, transforming reasonable standards into an impossible checklist that no human intolerant of normal imperfections and less willing to invest the patience required to build meaningful connections. The irony is that the very wisdom gained from experience, knowing what you want, can become a barrier if applied too rigidly. Healthy relationships aren't about finding someone flawless, but discovering someone whose strengths resonate with your values and whose imperfections you can accept with grace. If you consistently find potential partners falling short, it may be worth examining whether your expectations serve as wise filters or self-imposed isolation. True compatibility reveals itself through shared experiences and grown understanding, not instant perfection. Sometimes the most rewarding connections emerge when we allow space for human complexity. 5. Feeling less pressure to be in a relationship. As time passes, the pressure to be in a relationship naturally diminishes, especially when you've created a rich, satisfying life on your own terms. The independence and self-sufficiency you've cultivated are achievements to be proud of. They speak to your emotional maturity and ability to thrive solo. However, this very comfort can sometimes become a double-edged sword. When the thought of inviting someone into your well-ordered life begins to feel more like an inconvenience than an opportunity, it's worth examining whether you've crossed the line from healthy independence into emotional withdrawal. Many who reach this stage find themselves in a paradox. They may still long for connection, yet instinctively shy away when the possibility arises. This isn't about right or wrong, but about awareness, recognizing when your hard-won self-reliance might be keeping you from experiences that could add new depth and dimension to your already fulfilling life. The healthiest approach honors both truths. celebrating your ability to stand alone while remaining open to the ways love might enrich your journey. While the ability to be content alone is a testament to emotional strength and self-sufficiency, we must be mindful not to let that comfort become a barrier to connection. True companionship isn't about compensating for something missing in our lives. It's about adding new dimensions of joy, growth, and shared experience to an already complete existence. The healthiest relationships emerge when two whole individuals choose to walk together, each enhancing the other's journey without becoming the sole source of their happiness. By maintaining this perspective, we open ourselves to authentic connections that complement rather than complete us, allowing love to enter our lives as a welcome addition rather than a desperate necessity. Final thoughts. If you have been single for a long time, you have likely experienced some of these shifts. While many of them can be positive, fostering independence, confidence, and self-awareness, it is also important to recognize when they may be limiting your ability to form meaningful connections. The beauty of meaningful relationships lies in their ability to enhance rather than diminish who you are. When the right person enters your life, they won't ask you to sacrifice your hard-earned independence or abandon the identity you've cultivated. Instead, they'll add depth, joy, and partnership to the foundation you've already built. The key is maintaining openness to new connections, to emotional honesty, and to the natural compromises that come with sharing your world with someone. This balance allows love to grow organically, without force or desperation. And often, when we stop chasing and simply focus on living fully, love arrives unexpectedly, not as a missing piece, but as a harmonious addition to an already fulfilling life. Stay receptive, stay true to yourself, and trust that what's meant for you will find its way. Thank you so much for watching. We truly appreciate you being here. If this video resonated with you, we'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. What was your biggest takeaway? How do you plan to apply it in your life? Your insights not only inspire others in our community, but also help us create more meaningful content for you. If you found value here, please consider liking this video, subscribing to our channel, and sharing it with someone who might benefit. It makes a bigger difference than you know. We're grateful for your support and can't wait to continue this journey with you in future videos. Until next time, keep growing and stay